Today we're gonna put this snake in this box. Well, we're gonna assemble the stuff in this box and then put this snake in it. Every enclosure starts with a box. Well, unless you're Garrett at Snake Discovery, but that's a completely different separate option. But before you get building, you have to make sure that an enclosure is going to be water resistant. Now, if you're going to use a very arid setup, maybe you don't need to. I went overkill on the silicone here. I used 100% silicone, so always use something 100% silicone or something that says it's safe for animals. I threw a nice thick bead around all the edges, up the sides as well, because you don't want it to leak up the sides and those joints. The substrate doesn't have to be fancy. What I like to use is a mix of a bunch of different things. So play sand being number one. I like to use Eco Earth, and I like to use sphagnum moss to keep it fluffy, and then lastly, organic topsoil. I always go to chewy.com. I actually have cocoa fiber on auto ship right now, so that just comes all the time because I'm making a bunch of these enclosures all the time. And the sphagnum moss, same thing, chewy.com. It doesn't matter which brand you use. I like the Zoom Ed brand, keeps it fluffy, mix it all together. And in terms of like one part this, two part this, I just kind of eyeball it. Now this enclosure has a pretty big lip. I would say it's probably 8 inches, something like that, which is great. The problem is if you have a smaller animal, it's gonna be on the ground. You wanna build up the substrate really high, and that way you don't have to worry about not being able to see the animal. So what I did is I kind of had a gradient, so it's kind of lower in the front and it goes higher in the back. And that brings me to what this is. This is a New Age Pet enclosure. It's their EcoFlex product. And I love their EcoFlex product because, as you can see, water beads on it. This is an enclosure that is going to be water resistant, weather resistant, because the material that it's made with is the same as Trex decking. It's a composite of PVC and wood. So it's not a PVC enclosure, it's not wood. It has all the best properties of both. Here you can see me putting together the stand, which, by the way, you have to come and look at this in a couple of weeks because we're gonna put LED lighting and put some of the tarantula enclosures underneath. It's gonna look crazy. And then we put the enclosure together, put it on top, put some lights on top. And what I love too is it has the viewing windows on the side. Most enclosures have kind of opaque windows on the side if they don't have the sliding glass go all the way. I love this because A, it offers more support. B, you can see the entire front is a window. The sliding glass is actually glass, and the locking mechanism is great because it doesn't actually lock, it just looks really nice and prevents the snake from getting out. This is especially helpful if you have something in there that's gonna move around a lot, a boa constrictor or the thing we're gonna put in there. Even if you have a bearded dragon, it's just extra comfort knowing that it can't open the glass. Plus, let's talk about price, okay? Chewy.com is selling these right now for $249.99, which feels like an absolute steal. It feels like it should be illegal to buy an enclosure this good for that price. We're talking about the 4x2x2 that's available right now. $249.99, that's crazy. Every other enclosure that's even remotely close to this level of quality is gonna be $400 or more. Plus, it feels sturdy. When you rattle it around, it doesn't feel jinkety janked. You know, there's a whole bunch of other enclosure companies that just, it doesn't feel great. These ones feel awesome. And it looks like furniture, which I love. You can buy the matching stand if you want, or you can stack them up. Not to mention, it has a 10-year warranty. I don't know of any other enclosure company that offers that. And a unique feature, look at this little door at the top where you can just open it, throw in some crickets, have a cricket-eating animal or insects or whatever. Cool little feature that I've never seen on another enclosure. Overall, I love this enclosure. Go to chewy.com right now, hit the link below, and pick yourself up a New Age Pet enclosure. The 4x2x2s are unreal, and I'm so happy that I can set one up too. Even before you do any of this, what you want to buy is the lighting, right? So what I use is Arcadia bulbs. There's the link below where you can get yours. I like to use the Shade Dweller. It's perfect for this animal who doesn't want a high level of UVB. And because this New Age Pet enclosure does have the screen mesh on the top, only for most of the enclosure, not all of it, which I really like. And then I'm going to use one basking bulb. So you've got the substrate in. The next thing is put some leaf litter if you want to. I prefer putting leaf litter because it just gives more hiding spots, and then we're going to put microfauna in there too, and that's really going to help give them places to go. Sourcing leaves doesn't have to be complicated. Now, it's fall here, so there's leaves everywhere, and to make them safe, you just boil a big pot of water, put them in there, let them boil for a bit, and then dry them out, and then you got a whole bunch of leaves. And what I like to do is be very meticulous in the places that I put them. Really think about it, make it super elaborate, and this is what I mean. Just like that. Also, did I mention that the glass actually comes out? It's a pet peeve of mine when glass doesn't come out of enclosures, so you can't clean it properly. Even Alfie's crying about it. Leaves in, the stage is set, well the floor is basically. You want to make it look like a forest floor. That's what we're doing here. What I'm putting in this enclosure is a unicolor Cribo. They come from, well, a place where there's not oak leaves, but there's leaves all over the place. I've been to Central America, which is very similar to the South American jungle where they're from, and you see leaves literally up to your ankles. It is just so freaking deep. I didn't want it that deep because I want to see the animal still. And this is where I get flack, because some enclosures, they look like this. I like when they're green and lush and beautiful, but this is a snake that's going to destroy a planted enclosure. So if you're making this for, I don't know, a bull snake or a ball python or something heavy-bodied, don't plant it beautifully like this. It's going to get destroyed. Instead, use some cork bark or sticks or bricks or whatever. It's not going to look as pretty. I get that. And trust me, there are ways you can do it, but most people don't have a week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month to make an enclosure like this. This is an enclosure that you can make today. But if you want to see enclosures that take like way longer than a day, like this one and this one, I am making the second channel. It's coming soon. It's about enclosure builds. And you'll see a lot of them on there. This is the part you can use your individual artistic ability or what you like to look at. I'm trying to make it look naturalistic. Obviously, it looks a little more North American than it does South American, judging by what I have available. I like to buy cork, and some of the decor I got from Chewy. Some of it I got from my yard and then sanitized, and then I put it in there. This log actually I've had in my greenhouse since March, whenever we made this enclosure for my tegu. I've had it ever since. It's actually starting to grow moss on it, which is pretty awesome. And then a water bowl. You can use something that doesn't look super naturalistic, or again, link below, there's a bunch of different ones. So I put a little water bowl on the side there. I'm gonna see how it goes. I might upgrade to a larger bowl or keep this one. It's all about observing the animal and see what they're doing and how they're interacting with the enclosure. I think it looks really naturalistic. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. One thing I do think is really important is to make sure that you look at the enclosure and observe and make sure that it gets up to temperature and the right humidity. So I know my target temperature, my target humidity. I have a very good idea of what it's going to be tomorrow, but we're gonna leave this until tomorrow. We're gonna check it out, make sure it's okay. And of course, it's a good idea if you're new to this, do this for several days or a week or so. I mean, I've had enclosures in this exact same spot for years and years with the same setups. I know exactly what the temperature is going to be. I know exactly what the humidity is going to be. If you don't, it's a good idea to do this for several days rather than just overnight.
The very next evening.
I decided to put a misting system in because everything else has a misting system in this room, so it's just easy to carry on the chain and then add a couple of nozzles. It's really, really easy. And if you want to do a whole misting video, we can, but I mean, it's a Mist King. It's really easy. And keep in mind, this is an enclosure that could have many different animals you could put inside. It really doesn't matter, and I thought about quite a few different options that would fit in here. I just decided the coolest one might be the best one because he's active during the day. So it's been almost 24 hours and this enclosure is up to temperature. It's exactly where I want it to be in terms of humidity and in terms of heat. Now, of course, whenever you set an enclosure up, always put a hygrometer thermometer on both sides, or at least a thermometer on both sides. And then that way you can figure out if you have a cool end and a warm end that fits the needs of the animal that you're going to keep in there. Obviously, this is the fun part for a lot of us, but the big thing, what it leads up to, is putting the animal inside. And when we do, keep in mind, it's not over. You don't just put the animal in and then walk away. Not that most of us would, because the fun part is watching the animal. But the important part is making sure you're watching that animal interact with the environment and make sure that there's nothing wrong. Make sure it's a comfortable animal. Of course, this animal might hide for a few days or a few hours or might explore. It just depends on the temperament of the animal and the personality of the animal too. For example, if I put one of my corn snakes in here, they would be just at home and chill because that's how they are. This animal is going to be a little bit more sporadic because this is an animal that is highly intelligent. Cribos are highly intelligent. And Drymarchon as a whole, there's your Indigos, Easterns, Texas, there's a bunch of different ones. And then there's your other Drymarchons, which fall into Cribos. So your blacktail Cribos, unicolors, yellowtail Cribos. I have a unicolor. And this animal is gonna get probably 6 foot-ish. Right now it's a 5 foot animal. It might stay this size. And I'm putting it in a 5 foot enclosure. I think that's perfect. Generally the rule is you want the snake to be about the same length as 2 of the sides, the length and the width, which in this case would be 7 feet. And it's in my dining room living area, so I'm gonna be able to watch this animal all the time. Now this might be off-putting to eat dinner beside a reptile, but I mean, my house is kind of a zoo and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 enclosures just in the living room, dining room area, and I'm totally cool with that. We did a mini house tour right here. If you want to do another one, we can, because we've got, everything's just different now. Overall, it's been a rewarding experience to go ahead and get this new age enclosure, set it up, and put an animal inside of it. And having all the great features of this enclosure really makes it more fun to watch. I think, in my opinion, to have everything aesthetically pleasing to look at, even if it's not, crazy, and I know I could have put shelves in here and the whole thing, but this to me looks natural. The enclosure looks like furniture, and overall, I can't recommend new age pet enclosures enough. Again, link below. Thanks for sponsoring today's episode. Let me know what you would put in this enclosure and what you think would be best for a 5-foot enclosure. It's kind of an oddball size. Let me know in the comments section below. As always, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps this channel and helps get more videos like this going if you want to see them. And the Patreon supporters, you guys get videos early, discounts on merch, one-on-ones, all that and more for as little as $1 a month. That's it. Because I do videos on Mondays and Thursdays, that means I'll see you in the next one.